Greetings, Darklings, from across the interweb. It's once again I, the Duchess, Precious Ken, here for the Sounds and Shadows podcast. And I got a really fun one today, somebody that I've talked with, we've reviewed a bunch. Before I get to that, though, as I always say, if you send me stuff, I will shout it out on the show. So I am rocking this awesome shirt from Ancient My Enemy. We just had a interview with them recently, which we'll be releasing very soon. Very cool band to check out. It's Scott also does a project called HorrorHaus that's kind of more like ethereal type sounds, but Ancient My Enemy is the new project that they are doing with a much more kind of a standard electronic death rock feel. So please go check that band out. Very, very cool. And you can also on Bandcamp get these cool t-shirts there. Now, my guest for today is somebody, like I said, that I've talked to quite a bit. They're very active in the group. And from, to me, a really interesting community in goth over in Colorado, where I've never seen it, but, between Ryan and Witch Hands and the festival that they do there, it just seems like a really cool, vibrant scene. And so it is my extreme pleasure to welcome Plague Garden to the show today. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
All right. Well, this is fun that we have like a full band on. Sometimes, it's usually one person or two that we're going. So it's always fun when we have the full band. But I want to start out then by having you guys go down the line, introduce yourself, and say what it is that you do for the audience. So why don't we start over here and go right down the line and say hello.
My name's Steven. I play the bass guitar, and we all write music for Plague Garden stuff. Help.
Lovely.
And Fernando, I sing and play guitar, and we all write music together, like he said.
Angelo on keys.
And I'm Damien. I play guitar.
I also like here that we have a double vest situation going on, just not enough vests in goth bands these days. So when we have two in one shot, that's always awesome.
Right.
Why don't we start out here? Because like I said, I think a couple of the things that stand out to me that are really, really interesting about you guys are, number one, it's a very traditional death rock. You can really hear the roots on it. And I think that's something that, I don't know, sometimes gets missed a little in the fact that goth is always lately wanting to be evolving, doing different subgenres and whatnot. And every once in a while, it's really nice when someone, I don't know, keeps to the core theme. And not just in the sound that you guys do, which, to me has a very cool, like traditional death rock sound, but also lyrically and concept-wise, it's a lot of literary reference, a lot of reference to vampire tales. And you guys take the idea of macabre beauty and really fuse that into the lyrics and the ideas that you're writing. And to me, that makes you stand out because, I don't know, it seems like something a lot of people want to walk away from, and I love how you guys embrace it. So why don't you start out telling me a little, and you can kind of start with whoever you want, about what got you into this idea, this, dark death rock type music in your history. And then two, how did you all come together to form Plague Garden?
It's been a work in progress for quite a while, as this is our fourth album already.
Yeah.
And these are our members here to stay. So it basically evolved. I'm a little older. So going back to what you were saying about the influences and stuff, like I was there in California, in the death rock scene, in the late 80s, early 90s. So I saw it in real time. You made a Joy Division reference earlier, and sure, Joy Division. I love Joy Division, but like if you grew up and saw Joy Division and were like there to see the whole thing evolve, it hits different. So
sure.
So maybe we weren't trying to be traditional or anything. It's just kind of how it comes out. It's just kind of how. So, where am I going with this?
Well, I think, to your point though, it's the reason why it works. I think a lot of times if people try and, oh, well, I'm going to set my emulator exactly for a
Right.
72 Fender twin reverb amp, so it sounds like you can get that sound from it, but unless that sound is in your heart, like it's going to end up sounding fake, just like anything else. Like you have to love that early death rock sound.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's our influences. So, I mean, we don't know any better. We don't know what, the kids are, what are the kids like today or whatever. We're just gonna, we strike a note and that's what comes out, so.
I think a lot of what you're probably alluding to is more in terms of the new album that just came out last month.
Mhm.
And a big part of the direction that album took was the fact that Playgarden was up and running and doing really well as a post-punk, very artistically diverse band for 3 albums. And then a little more than a couple of years ago, Steven joined
Mhm.
on bass, and he brought in a very prominent goth influence from his own background, and that adds flavor, that adds nuance. And a few months after Steven joined, I got to see Playgarden for the first time because I was new to Denver in 2020 after the pandemic and bands started having shows. I got to see Playgarden open up for Christian Death, and the band blew my mind. I was like,
Thanks.
that the show was amazing, and I got in touch with Fernando. And interestingly enough, we ended up realizing we lived in the same neighborhood, so he and I started collaborating on other music outside of Playgarden. And when Playgarden needed a guitar player, he asked me to join. And my background, I was introduced to goth and death rock in the mid to late '80s myself. Um, like the first couple of Christian Death albums, Nephilim, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so with me on guitar, death rock is, as a lot of people realize, in terms of the different nuances between sub genres. Goth is very dance friendly. Death rock is goth with a bit more of a street and punk influence into it on guitar, and that I think that's a bit of the influence I brought into the band. So a bit more of an influx in goth, a bit more of an influx in death rock with Stephen and myself. We brought a different flavor to the writing because
Sure.
what ended up happening is that the writing became a collaborative effort where ideas were just bouncing back and forth in this very room, and the sounds that we were coming up with were very different. I think personally from the first 3 Playgarden albums. And so that's how this album sort of came to be, and that I think that's kind of the flavor you're really referring to.
Yeah.
It's like each album kind of had a different member in it, really. So, okay, so our fourth album, this one, Under the Sanguine Moon, is obviously a vampire theme, but the one before it was pirate themed. So, we like themes over here. It's more fun to kind of just make it a story and kind of like a movie, but in audio.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And I mean, we do that a lot too. And I don't know, like there's a wave that everybody wants to do singles now, with like
Yeah.
Spotify and what.
Oh,
And it's a little bit of a lost art, I think, when you can really, especially for multiple albums, tie together an interesting idea, and especially getting 4 people on the same page that all are really into that. Like, hey, we want to do goth songs about pirates, and all 4 of us raised our hands. Like, I mean,
right.
and that's incredible. Like, so no, I think that's really cool. And the other thing I find really interesting about you guys and unique is when I think death rock or saying that or traditional, drums are a big part of it for me. Like that's one of the first thing when it stands out to me, the difference between maybe a modern goth album and a death rock album is that the drums play a big factor. But you guys use a lot of electronic drums, so you're kind of blending that with as you said, the traditional guitar and bass death rock sounds. And I think that's a little bit unique too, that you don't always see that, where I think of a band as death rock, but yet they have electronic drums behind them.
So this is pretty interesting because as you know, Damien is also in Witch Hands. He's Witch Hands is guitarist. We have Brian from Witch Hands on most of the drum tracks on this album.
Yeah.
So he's actually playing, real drums.
Right.
Which is way different from our previous stuff, is more drum machine sounding and stuff.
Yeah. But when you guys play it live, does Brian come out and play live with you?
No.
Yeah, so you're still, kind of doing a backing track type drum
that's
sound.
this guy. That's this guy with the drum machine and the keyboard and stuff. So Brian definitely gave us a more like aggressive, edgier kind of
More organic.
Yeah, more organic.
Yeah. And Brian in general always, whether it's with Witch Hands or has a very, I don't know, like John Bonham mindset. Whenever I hear him, I hear giant toms, like wailing away as hard as you can. Like that's his style.
So he's been so busy with all sorts of other stuff. And then when we thought of the cover for Crush, we saw Dan Milligan, the Drum Daddy.
Drum Daddy.
Hey,
we love Dan dearly.
But he needs some drums, and I hit him up right away, which is cool because it's a trip hop song. So it makes sense to have a slightly different drummer just for that track, which is pretty cool too. So we have two amazing drummers on our album.
Nice.
Yeah, we love Dan Milligan. If anybody needs drums, hit him up. He's affordable, and he got the drum tracks back to us in one day.
Yeah. No, Dan's a incredible professional, but also I think just really easy to work with as a band. I have before where, I don't know, it's hard sometimes when you're farming out parts. Right. The communication on that, especially the four of you obviously are very close. You collaborate a lot. And anytime you're adding another piece in, right, it can be complicated. And I think one of the things that Dan's amazing about as a producer is just talking to be helpful and add to what you're trying to do, not kind of making it about himself.
No, he is a pro through and through for sure. And we also got Azzy Betts on this album too.
Yes. I always a huge fan of Azzy. Just an amazing human, and all that they do with Obscure Undead and everything else. I know they've kind of been taking a break from projects lately, so it was great when I saw their name come up for your record.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Palest Gray, like really cool old school death rock band, and I heard her voice on there because she's actually singing on a couple of those tracks, and I'm like, oh, that would be cool if she would be down to, and she was totally into it, and I'm very grateful because she's amazing.
Azzy has a very smoky, ethereal flavor to their voice that I think really adds it well, and I really liked that track for you guys. So tell me a little bit now. In addition, we kind of talked about the theme here, but to me that's really, really interesting, and especially lyrically, because it comes across well read. I know you kind of talked about the punk rock ethos of your brand of death rock, and I know political message has always been something that's important to you and has been to this scene from the beginning. So I think now more than ever it's important to have that come out. But this idea of kind of Byron-esque traditional vampire stories, what about that came together for you guys, and how did you work on writing and expressing it to make it more vampy? As you're trying to create both your sounds and lyrics, you were leaning into that. And I love that. A lot of people, I think, shy away these days from kind of the cheese side of goth. To be, how could you have it without, how could you be wearing frilly cuffs and a velvet coat and taking yourself that seriously? Like, I think you miss the fun of goth if you don't lean into the theatrics.
No, we do not take ourselves seriously. Like, this is very tongue in cheek. You gotta have fun with it. You gotta be able to, if you can't make fun of yourself, like, you're not having a good time. So we feel almost cartoony sometimes with this kind of stuff. But this particular album, everything just came out naturally because it's like, oh, what are we going to sing about now? Oh, blood. Oh, vampires again. Yes, again. Let's just make it a whole album. Let's just do it all, get it all out into this one album so we can move on. Yeah. The next album is going to be a totally different theme too, but I'm not gonna reveal anything yet. But
oh, okay. Well, we'll look forward to talk again when that comes out.
More fun themes, basically.
But tell me a little bit about some of the ones that stood out to me, like the Dirty Deed or whatever. How were some of these ideas of telling these vampire stories? How did they come together for you?
The Dirty Dead, for me, it was originally going to be on a different album, upcoming album, but it felt like it just kind of went with it. And we're thinking, it has more like a John Carpenter's vampire, kind of like a dirty, out in the middle of nowhere kind of vampire type.
Yeah, that or Tarantino, Carpenter, that Southwest vampire action.
Right. Yeah, like in the middle of the desert kind of vampire. Like they're starving out there.
There's not that much to eat. There's too much sun.
Yeah.
This is a dirtier, grittier vampire.
Right. Too much sun. So yeah.
Well, what about some of the other songs here that you guys had and kind of how it fell in, or Running from Satan, or the Los Niños Perdidos. What are some of the ways that you guys really tried to incorporate, whether it was with instrumentation or a sound, or the lyrics, a vampire story you thought people could latch onto?
Damien? Honestly, so much of it was really just a collaborative effort where it wasn't necessary. The thing is, it's not like a concept record in that we're telling a story.
Sure.
It wasn't really a conscious effort. It was more a sense of, okay, well, we've accomplished this with this song. We're going in this direction. So let's look at a different aspect of vampirism or creatures of the night, or let's go with a feel. It didn't necessarily have to do with a story or telling a tale or taking you somewhere with a plot. It was just more of a sense of let's take an aspect of the vampiric mythos and explore it, in a couple of verses and just kind of run with it, basically.
Did you guys have, maybe a particular vampire mythos that you really subscribe to, whether it's the old school Bram Stoker or, like you were mentioning, kind of the Carpenter, or for me, I was a big White Wolf guy. So, I mean, a lot of my early introduction into goth is like 15 and 16 was White Wolf, Vampire the Masquerade books. So when I think of vampire mythos, that's always one that's close to my heart. Did you guys have, whether it was movies or books, something that really influenced you?
Well, Los Niños Perdidos, that means the Lost Boys.
Yes, the Lost Boys.
So yeah, I love the Lost Boys. That was a huge thing, like growing up in junior high, the Lost Boys and everything. It was really cool. And it was fun to actually sing a song in Spanish, which I very rarely do. But Steven has an interesting story about blood fingers.
Yeah, the origins of that one. It's not exactly vampiric, but it almost anything that I help write comes from real experiences I've had.
Sure.
Yeah. So blood fingers. It was. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I didn't get diagnosed very long ago, which is rare. Usually, it's diagnosed in childhood. So shortly after I got it, I wound up in the hospital, and I wound up with a blood clot also. So they put me on blood thinners. But my autocorrect, when I told Fernando about it, corrected it to blood fingers for some reason. And so then
I was like, cool.
That's the title of the song.
That's a great song title.
That's a great title. Yeah, I love that.
White lights and stuff like that. I'm talking about the hospital lights and everything. And really close experience to death. Yes, it says black cat from the corner of my eye. That's because they kept asking me if I was having hallucinations. And I said, well, not really, but once in a while, I'll see this black cat in the corner of my eye. And that's true. I had a cat for 19 years, and I felt like, because I was so close to the thinning of the veil and close to death that I was seeing this cat coming and to me, and so that's basically how that song came about. It's all from real stuff.
Yeah, and then let's not, go to like almost dying to write a good song.
I'm gonna try not to.
We gotta keep these guys out of the hospital,
I hear you, but no, I love the realness of that, and I love, like you said, kind of the gallows humor of being able to take away something very real and very scary and find a way to own that and turn it into, a kind of vampire song about, a way to process something that was very real to all you guys, no doubt, and scary when going through that.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to take away. They say that with writers or songwriters or anyone, that the most, the stuff that motivates you the most is the stuff that's real to you.
Yeah. So at this point, I want to talk a little bit for our gear nerd people. I am not one of them. I'm terrible at that stuff. That's what Colin is for. But I know that
he makes some amazing guitars, by the way.
Does, yeah. I just working on a new one for a friend of Ryan's. I know.
Yeah, I saw Ryan's guitar. He
oh yeah,
it was beautiful.
It's incredible. All the guitars I play, Colin does, and it's unreal that he does that, like chopping down a tree and just taking a block of wood and turning that into the guitars he does. So yeah, sure. Shout out to Archdiocese Guitars. Go check that out at Instagram. Colin does amazing stuff. All right, moving back to you guys though. In doing kind of this, like you said, traditional death rock sound, tell me a little bit about maybe something for this album, a new piece of gear or something that you guys used or incorporated that you feel like was really present and stood out for you when you put out this album. Or just your rig and what you like about it.
I tend to go a little traditional, so I mostly play. I'm a Fender guy, but I mostly play a Jazzmaster. It's not a traditional Jazzmaster, and I run it through 65 Fender Twin. So nice. Twin. So that's where I get my sound from. We use a Roland Juno on stage because it's kind of a workhorse.
Oh wow, yeah.
He can run the drums and play keys and everything all from one keyboard.
Which one of you is the workhorse that has to carry that beast?
Right. Oh no, it's super light. Super light.
Oh really? Oh.
Yeah. It's a Juno DS. So it even takes batteries. So if you take the batteries out,
no batteries. The case is heavier than the keyboard itself.
Right on.
Yeah. So Steven, Steven plays through a Mark bass head and Galen Kruger 15-inch. And what do you play?
I got an LTD 5-string that I play usually on stage. For some songs, I do prefer a 4-string, and I'll usually use his Jazzmaster. That's what it is, right?
The jazz bass, yeah.
Jazz bass, yeah. And with this band, I use 0 effects. It's all raw.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I think that does stand out when you hear it because your tone is so tight for doing kind of the downstrumming Peter Hook type of thing, but it doesn't resonate as much. Your strikes are all very clean and precise.
Nice and dry.
And on the album, they do have some effects, but in live, it's like I said, it's all raw.
All raw.
Yeah. Raw dogging it.
And for guitar, Fernando and I both have way too many guitars in both of our collections. So we've got lots to choose from. But
we love guitars.
For myself, like you said, he's a Fender guy. But for myself, kind of sticking more to that sort of death rock kind of punkish vibe, to kind of keep it sort of grounded in that. For Plague Garden, I have primarily been sticking to a Gibson Les Paul Studio and running through my own pedal board. And so some of the standards on the pedal board is, obviously the dirt pedals like a Strymon amp sim and distortion pedal. But some of the trick with that is not getting too heavy with the distortion, just being able to temper that, just kind of lay off of the dirt, because you put in too much of that, you end up being a metal band.
Right.
We're staying away from that for sure. We don't want to go in that direction.
Yeah, no metal.
no metal. But outside of that, in terms of effects, I have to have chorus on pretty much at all times.
Sure.
a little bit of reverb, a little bit of delay where needed, but again, just tempering that to where it's not overloading things. And yeah, for sure. And just a slight taste of flanger. And that's pretty much my rig.
So in both of our rigs, both of our pedal boards, I don't even bring my big Fender amp anymore because we have a Strymon Iridium, which is a cab sim, and I usually have mine set to a 65 deluxe reverb. There's also an option for a Vox AC30 and a Marshall stack.
And I've got mine set on Marshall.
And got set on the Marshall. So it's been a back saver. Like, we don't have to take our big, huge amps anymore. We're all cab sim, no amps, and it's honestly it's a lot easier on the front of the house guy. Like,
we do the same thing. Like, we have no amps, all in-ear monitors. Our entire loadout fits in the trunk of a Subaru Outback.
Nice.
Oh,
nice.
And I'm not going to lie, that's one of the reasons why we've kind of shied away from a live drummer.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people now, and it's tough. I mean, I think it adds a lot to your strike in a loud live performance. But the problem is, economically, it's hard for bands to do that now because, you're basically adding a whole other van if you got a drummer almost. And, like getting it on and off stage, miking it up, you're adding a huge amount of extra, manpower and resource when you're doing a live drummer. And I think a lot of bands now, it makes it tough to go on tour and plan for that, So I agree. It's tough, but there's the other side of that where it sounds so different,
So I mean, you got a way bigger live sound, that's
energy.
That's what you have to sacrifice if you. Honestly, we just couldn't find a drummer.
That's also hard.
It's so hard to find a drummer. So when you finally find a drummer, he's in like 20 other bands, or she's in 20 other bands. Like it's. What do you do?
There's that old L. Jorgensen quote that I always loved. That was there was only one industrial band in the '90s, and whoever was drunkest played drums.
There you go.
Nice,
There you go.
I'm in Pigface administration.
Well, that's the whole Wax Trax ideology for sure.
So tell me a little bit now. We talked about your live performance, and tell me a little bit about how that's different for when you guys, do it on the album. That's something I always am interested to hear is, you got to kind of give the crowd a little bit of a fresh or different experience, or why not just sit home and hit play on your record at home? And then tell me a little bit, do you guys have stuff coming up where people can see you live?
Well, we do have our next show is coming up March 10th. And there's this cool band from France coming called Crush of Souls. Really cool, like French cold wave post-punk kind of band. And we'll be playing with them soon, March 10th. We have another one isn't announced yet. And so since we all have like 9 to 5 kind of regular jobs, we try to like at least go out a few times a year to like 1 or 2 different states, a little road trip here, a little road trip there, and try to just do that, hit one-offs and stuff like that. So if anybody wants to book us for a festival, we're game. We'll get some airline tickets and we'll fly out. That's another thing that we have. We got a smaller rig as well. Like if I got to jump on a plane, I just got my guitar and I use a Boss GT 1000 core, and it's like that small. So it's all entire pedal board this small. So it's, I would like to go out, jump on a plane and go play a festival like Murder Crows or
come out to Detroit or Chicago. You got to hit me up afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. We might be playing Indy this year. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, nice.
But if we do, we want to go out to Chicago. And, I don't know, whoever's listening, Ayatoya, Anya, or Bellhead, or, Joy Thieves, or whoever wants to play with us, hit us up, we're down. So nice. Chicago and Indy would be a good road trip.
Yeah, and maybe throw Detroit in there too.
Yeah, how far is Detroit from?
So I'm in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is right between Detroit and Chicago.
Oh, okay.
So it's 2 hours to Chicago, 2 hours to Detroit. So we're kind of the spot right in the middle.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll have to hit up Smalls.
Yeah, Smalls is always a great time,
great.
and yeah, have a festival coming up. So, and you'll be hearing me talk about that in the next few coming up interviews as we lead up to that for May.
Nice.
So the other thing I kind of wanted to hit on from you guys is, tell me a little bit about what the future, what you're looking for in this project. Because like you said, I mean, like me, I'm 47. You have day jobs, you're working this stuff, but you love to play and you love to do this. What are some of the goals that you have for yourself, whether it's a festival that you'd really like to get out and play, or whether it's to focus more on doing another studio record after this?
Personally, I would really want to play the festivals like Absolution. I mean, I could just name them all, but we all know the festivals. I think that would kind of help us if we just start doing a festival kind of circuit going, So what we're trying to do right now, we're trying to get our Spotify numbers up because obviously there's some weird metric. I don't know why people are using Spotify as a metric now, but they are. So now we got to get our numbers up, got to get our Instagram up. Once we get our Facebook numbers up, now we got to get our Instagram numbers up. It's like that part kind of sucks. I wish I had a professional person to do that because I'd rather just create,
Sure. No, I think that's something that, you can't not think about it as a band these days. And it never used to be part of the equation. But here we are. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it's going away. It's just part of the reality of being a band and in music now is you have to think about that stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately you do, and that's what people look at. So, but for short-term goals, definitely want to play some festivals.
Personally, I'm pretty ambitious with this project. I've been in bands for 35 years, and this one I think has the most potential of anyone I've ever been in. I would like to be in Berlin and like Kyoto in the next year or so playing festivals.
That's awesome, and absolute really cool. I don't know, different scene in Europe for goth music. Like when I've been over there and gone to festivals there, they take it really, really serious, which is awesome, but also you got to have something fresh to move the needle there because they've heard it all and seen it all,
Sure, for sure. And like a lot of people, I love Twin Tribes, but a lot of bands sound a lot like Twin Tribes nowadays. Yeah. And we're going way more back to the old school with that. I don't think there's that many bands that are up and coming right now that sound very much like Plague Garden, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
You love Twin Tribes.
I love Twin Tribes.
So get this. Our very first Plague Garden show was with Twin Tribes, their very first tour. Luis and
Joel
and Joel, and Lalo. They brought Lalo too. They stayed here in this basement.
Oh, nice.
In the spare room. So, super, super awesome guys. This was quite a while ago. They're a little more grown up now, and I'm so proud of them because they are just like world class now. You can't top Twin Tribes.
Yeah, no, Joel and Luis are amazing. They're just, I don't know, and they deserve all the great stuff they have going. They were actually the first Sounds and Shadows review was Twin Tribe Shadows. Yeah, so
I remember that, and that was around the same time that we played our first play.
It was like 2019.
Yeah, 2018, I think. So
2018. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's incredible, and of course, shout out to Joel and Louise. So, you guys, kind of mentioned that you have, your other life, and that you're doing this music on top of it.
It's just work. It's not a life.
I hear you, but at the same time,
work sucks.
I guess what I'm asking is, in addition to using music as an outlet, is there something else that you guys do for yourself, like me doing Sounds and Shadows, that you guys do for yourselves to keep sane in like this weird hellscape we're in right now, where every day there's a new news story that breaks my heart, you know what I mean? Fresh. What do you do to kind of, I don't know, center yourself or find some relief from that, whether it's in music or art in other ways, or kind of, we talked about me doing cooking. What are some of the other things you guys do to interest yourself other than music?
I love to cook. Like that's, I mean, we would get along in the kitchen. I'm just saying, like,
well, anytime you guys come through Detroit or Chicago, I'll feed you in Kalamazoo.
Same here. Come to Colorado, I'll feed you here. So you know, it's I love to cook, and I don't even I cook every day, so it doesn't feel like I'm doing something special.
Sure.
You know? But as far as like from departure from the band, we also have Bleeding Light Music, which is like a collective. All the homies come over here, they record, I record them, I mix and master for them and stuff like that. And we're all just kind of like a group of friends, collectively helping each other make art, you know. Guys?
Something that I'm involved in that I that personally, it gives me a lot of fulfillment is being part of an organization. And it was around for years before I moved to Denver in 2020. But at first, it started as a Facebook group called Colorado Goth Society. And over the past couple of years, we have turned that into. I mean, it was just announced just a few weeks ago that we are actually now a nonprofit organization.
That's awesome.
And so that gives us the opportunity to support other causes, other organizations, and really put ourselves in the community directly to help out with with causes that are important to us. Like LGBT community, helping out the youth locally in the goth scene and outside the goth scene. And there's a lot that we do, and I could just rattle off a huge list of things that we're involved in, but there's a lot that we do to take care of our community. And like I said, that gives us a lot of fulfillment. For me personally, you mentioned what do we do outside of music? For me personally, it's going to sound cliche, but music is life for me, and that's why I'm in three different projects. Because when I'm not doing something for Play Garden, I'm working with Witch Hands. I've been in Witch Hands as the new guitarist for a little bit longer than a year now. Basically, they had a gig opening up for Male Tears, and their previous guitarist, Jordan Jen, left the band, and they had a week, and the show was sold out. They didn't want to cancel because of that. It was a pretty high profile gig, and so they gave me a call. Hey, Damien, can you learn our set list in like 3 days?
And he did.
And why not? I'll give it a shot. And so I loved it because, I'm just as much into death rock as I am into goth music.
Sure.
And as much as I loved doing that for Witch Hands, it felt like it was a good fit for me. And so I felt like, honestly, legitimately felt like I was just a temporary replacement until they found someone who could really take
sure.
Lo and behold, to my surprise, when we played that first gig opening up for Male Tears, Ryan got on the mic and said, "Hey, introduce our new guitarist, Damien." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" So I guess I'm in the band. So that was pretty much a surprise for me, as I guess it was for anyone else. So kind of working with both bands. And then on top of that, I'm always writing music, always.
Sure.
And something that I feel is a personal passion for me is the music that I grew up on in the mid to late 80s and early 90s. Again, as I mentioned, Christian Death, Nephilim, Rosetta Stone, Children on Stone, that kind of thing. I wanted to do a project that was like a love letter to that sort of goth music that I grew up on, Nosferatu, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I started writing music a couple of years ago. I called the project Ceremonial Leather. And that's been pretty much my baby. The only problem for me is that I can't sing worth a damn. And so I practically begged Fernando to give me an assist, and he's been so
You just had to ask.
in helping out.
You didn't have to beg.
Yeah, but it was important to me, you know. So basically, for BldddLttr, I write all the music, I write all the lyrics, I do all the heavy lifting in terms of putting the work together. I'll do all that at home. And then when I'm done with all that, I come over to Fernando's house, just a few blocks away from my place. I give him the lyrics. I give him an idea of how in my mind, how I kind of think things should kind of go. And I hand it off and let him kind of run with it. And he's been spectacular in doing that. Thanks. And then from there, from singing, you know, doing the vocals, he goes behind the scenes and he takes care of the mixing, the mastering,
production stuff, and
have to really do the magic to make the songs really come to life. Right. And that's a huge part of the project. So for me, like I said, I'm always working with music in one way or another. And if not that, photography. And personally, with photography, typically it's either nature, doing trails, or prominently touring local cemeteries and graveyards. And,
that's very cool. And like, do you actually do, you know, like, do you do digital photography, or do you actually, you know, do the chemicals and like?
No, just digital.
Nice, very cool.
And I've got thousands of pictures from cemeteries, even New Orleans, where I'm from, basically.
So you have album covers for days, just ready to go.
That's exactly where the album cover for the Play Garden record came about. So it all ties together.
That's a real photo from a real cemetery.
That's pretty much my bread and butter, honestly.
So Angelo is the artist of the bunch.
Digital artist.
Well, he's an artist nonetheless, and he puts together all our stuff for us and everything.
Nice.
We also have an industrial band called F.
Yeah, I've reviewed you guys. I reviewed that album.
So that's him and I.
So it started out. There was another guy that was in F.
And he left.
But while he was there, they needed a backing video for a show. Sure. And so he came to me, and so I started working on the background stuff. Was at every show running video while the guys were playing. And when the other guy left the band, I don't know if he kind of thought it would be over or whatever that. I'm like, I could do both from stage. I could do the accompanying parts. I could launch backing tracks. I could press play for video. I mean, you know, so it just kind of evolved from there.
Jack of all trades over here.
But
you got it in bands these days. You got to have like 3 bonus skills under your belt for everybody you have in the band, you know?
So F is a little different because we are hardcore political, super woke. We love being woke. We are.
You mean showing basic human empathy? Would you say woke? Is that what you mean by that? Basic human empathy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. We like to care about people. You know, and there's a lot of people out there that think that that's wrong, and they're wrong.
Yeah. That one always baffles me when people use that like a bad word, and I'm like, do you mean just basically caring if people live or die? Is that what?
Right.
That's what's. Is that bad?
Why is everything that's good has to be demonized all the time? You know? So we're out there fighting the good fight in that sense. Blade Garden, we like to lose ourselves more into more of a fantasy world. You know, we have like political undertones, but we're not just in your face like, oh, fuck this guy, you know, like.
Sure. But you do need that too. I mean, in this day and age, and like I said, where things, I don't know, just keep getting darker this year, sometimes you need a little bit of fantasy just to stay sane.
I started a hardcore punk project called the Churro Jerks. And I am railing on this administration. So if you want any of that angsty aggression, like, fuck this guy, that's Churro Jerks.
The Churro Jerks. I love it.
Yeah. You got written up in Westward just recently.
Yeah. And it says Fernando Altanaga really, really, really hates Trump.
Nice.
So it's cool to see my name in a local magazine. Famous for hating Trump.
I mean, if you got to be famous for something, you know, that's not a bad one. So we're coming up now towards the end of the interview, and one of the things I always like to ask artists is, tell me about. We're a music review page first and foremost. Tell me about one or two things that you're listening to that you're excited about right now and want to shout out for bands. So again, kind of go down the line and everybody just tell me something that is kind of inspiring you right now, music wise.
Wearing the shirt of my friend's band from Wichita, Remains to Be Seen.
They're amazing.
They are
Nice.
amazing. I would definitely check them out. Our
And
friends
from Kansas. I don't know if I've known any other bands.
Wichita, Kansas. Wichita,
So
Kansas. They're only like, I think 300,000 people. They have a much better music scene in most towns of that size. They are pretty
Wow.
great.
It kind of remind me of like Black Tape for a Blue Girl, kind of ethereal, kind of like
very cool.
mellow, atmospheric.
They are one.
They're
Our
so good.
friends from here in Denver, Occults. Are
Occults.
ones I would definitely
Freaking
check out.
awesome.
They are brand new and they are hot.
They are hot.
Everybody
Hot
loves them,
Crucible.
so
That's a great song.
that's definitely
Nice.
stuff to check out.
BldddLttr. There's a band called BldddLttr from Denver and Santa Fe. It's BldddD.
Triple D.
No vowels. I just finished mixing and mastering their album. It's going to be debuting tomorrow. So I'll send you a link to their Bandcamp.
Yeah, please send me links to all this stuff.
It'll be fresh, hot, brand new
Nice.
stuff. Angelo?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tough one for me. I feel sometimes I kind of live in my own bubble. My tastes are all over the place.
I mean, it doesn't have to be goth stuff. It's just whatever you're feeling.
No, but so I grew up with new wave, early industrial. But then, and just gone through phases with everything. I find myself going back to a lot of the classics. But what's really been impressing me, because we keep bringing it up, is the stuff going on in the local scene. There's
many bands.
Yeah, there's another band here in Denver called Church Fire.
Yeah.
That
Amazing.
I'm obsessed.
They're so
with
good.
them. Yeah, so I mean that's why I put it for anybody.
There's no shortage of amazing bands here.
See, that's what I said kind of at the beginning when I said I feel like I am just always hearing about great underground stuff happening in Colorado.
This is like Seattle in the 90s, but
Yeah.
Denver now, it's the same
Yeah,
thing.
it's just some of this stuff needs to take off nationally, which is getting more and more difficult. I feel just trying to get somebody's attention out there, But,
you have to be a salesperson for some reason. It's
You do, and I think the other big part of it is it's tough because a lot of guys like our age will kind of come into our musical own in our 40s or something like this.
Yeah.
But then to really get to that next level, your ass needs to get in a van and play live all over the place for not that many people in the beginning. And it's economically tough to do that. And so I think that's a big part of, for you guys, getting your name over. In a lot of ways, there's nothing you can do online to really get an invested fan outside of your area. That's tough. People expect now that you play a show, they come up afterwards, you shake their hand and you say hello or whatever and give them some merch. And if you don't have that kind of connection with people, I think it's tough to really get them to truly follow you just online. It happens, but it's hard.
It is.
Well, yeah, we've gained a lot along the way, though.
Yeah.
Real people, in person.
And you, sir?
And for myself, I'm always looking for new music. It's insatiable. I'm always digging around to find something new to listen to. And I'm pretty well rounded, honestly. Lots of genres. I'm all over the place. But what tends to happen is the reason I end up playing goth and death rock primarily isn't, it's really because it's going to rub off on me because that's what I primarily listen to most, and I always have since I was introduced to it 30-something, 40-something years ago. But currently, out of Austin, San Antonio, Lessons in Purgatory, huge band for me. I love the hell out of them. Illegal Funeral.
Oh, they're great.
Rope out of Minneapolis just released an album late last year, I think. That's an amazing band, The Rope. just this past Friday, Haunt Me out of Austin released a new album, and I've been kind of digging into that over the weekend. So, yeah, that's been pretty much what I've been listening to lately.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Great shout outs there from everybody. And like I said, please send me links and I'll make sure to put those in the interviews when we release them. So now we're to the point where I like to spin out to one of the tracks off the new album that you guys have here. And do you have one that you feel really kind of, if people haven't heard Plague Garden before, encapsulates what it is that you guys do for somebody hearing you the first time? That you'd like us to spin out to.
Dirty Dead.
Either that or Satan running.
Running from Satan.
Either that or Dirty Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, Running from Satan or Dirty Dead.
Well, I mean, I'll go with whichever.
You pick.
Do Running from Satan.
Okay, Running from Satan. So for those of us here at Sounds and Shadows, it's been great talking to you guys. And we are here with the band Plague Garden, and we are going to be spinning out to the song Running with Satan. Wait, is it Running from Satan or Running
from
Satan?
Yeah,
Satan.
like, get away.
If you say so. I mean, sometimes you got to run with Satan to run from Satan.
Well, that's Van Halen.
That's true. That's true. But this is Running from Satan, the band Plague Garden. It's been a real pleasure having you guys on. Everybody needs to check out this band, and all my friends out there that run festivals and whatnot. This is somebody you should bring out and get them in front of your audience there. I think one of the most intriguing death rock traditional goth things happening right now. So please, everybody out there, check them out. And those of you out in interweb land, keep it dark, yeah.
Everything that you desire, bathe in the ashes. You wake up full of dread, all the demons in your head feed on your passions. Burn, burn on the fire, everything that you desire. In the ashes, you wake up full of dread, all the demons in your head feed on your passions. I've been hiding in my world, you've been running from Satan. All the things left to destroy, all the things that are forsaken. I've been hiding in my world, you've been playing in sin. All the darkness in your eyes shows the beast that lies within. Such a tangled ploy when we practice to destroy your wrath. As risen. I remember all your lies. Sometimes love never dies. No one is forgiven. Your soul is caked in mud as you're feasting on my blood. Pain is your religion. You have forsaken me, and I have been set free by your indecision. I've been hiding in my world. You've been running from Satan. All the things left to destroy.